All right, while I have your attention here, you ever have one of those moments where you like see somebody and you find out their name and the name and their face go together like perfectly and you just know this person will one day just get worse from however they are? I'm going to just tell you the name. I'm going to tell you the name and then you can take it from there. I encountered today, just out and about in the world, a young tween named Carver Madison, first names, we'll skip his last name, the fifth. Just think about the sort of human with that name, and you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. What a shit show. All right. Oh, let's just get started because otherwise I'm going to rant about this kid and just how fucking awful it was. All right, let's do this. Here we go. Boom.
All right. Just remember what I've taught you.
What the fuck is that?
Hey, yo.
Yeah, so that was my day. My day included an encounter with a human named Carver Madison the fifth. Like, it was a small human, but still, like, what kind of terrible fascist atrocity will that kid grow up to produce? It was awful. Anyway, hi, how are you? I hope you're doing well. How have you been? It feels like it's been like 9 years since we did this, but it's only been a week. Yeah, I know. Crazy, right? Just time is a strange construct. But let's get started. Let's see what we can do today, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, friends, writers, makers, doers, dreamers, hopefuls, planners, thinkers, soap enthusiasts, shower lovers, bath lovers, shavers, peelers, waxers, dancers, tippers, nacho cheese fans. People who really like those crumbly bits that when you melt the cheese on the nachos, it just kind of sticks to the plate. Anybody who can appreciate a good green salsa. Anybody who can appreciate a good green drink. Anybody who's strongly considering going vegetarian or vegan in the next 30 days. Anybody who looked at a truck and was like, God, I'm glad I didn't buy one of those. Anybody who's ever tried to write something longhand with a pen or pencil and then realized it's been a really long time since you had to like hand write something and you're really worried for a few seconds that you're going to forget how to make letters. And most importantly, the comrades. Hello and welcome to the Writers Chat for June the 15th. I swear to you, I only casually looked to see what the date was today. Hello. Hi. I'm John. I will be your tour guide through the insanity that is publishing. If you don't know who I am, I've been doing this for half my goddamn life. I'm John. I'm a developmental editor and writing coach, and it is my profound pleasure to answer your questions. All of them. Every single one of them. Whether they be they spicy or be they tepid. I am happy to provide as many answers as I can, as well as the answers of those people over in chat. Chat, say hi. And don't forget to say hi to YouTube in the future, because eventually at some point, 9 to 20 hours will go by and this will end up on YouTube. I still don't know how that's doing, but all the same, that's how it goes. You've asked me how I'm doing. I'm doing really well. I'm doing really, really well. I'm wearing a very comfortable t-shirt. I'm wearing a very nice, comfortable pair of shorts. The chat was fixed, I should point out. It was set for whatever reason to emote only mode. It does that by default apparently. I believe I fixed it. If I haven't fixed it, can someone please out there like send me a message on some other platform, and I'll go over there and press the button and unfuck it. I've also, it's important if you're not, if you've not subscribed and you're checking this out, you're going to get ads because I adjusted the ads. Don't freak out. But those ads are literally what allows me to like buy food and clothes. So ads are sticking around for a while because that money is critical, because it's just critical. So I appreciate your patience with the ads. I appreciate your understanding if you had chat issues. Thanks for letting me work them out. And I look forward to tonight in answering, I've got a pile of questions. Last week was spicy. We're continuing that trend today because, again, I don't have any graphic. I apologize. I didn't think to make a spicy graphic, but oh man, I'm going to start tonight with a spicy question. Where the hell is it? It's over here. Ready? Ready? Here we go. Here is your spicy question numero 1. What are some things to keep in mind when writing a main character that is both the hero and the villain? All right. Look. Now, my immediate response to this is don't do it. Don't do it at all. It's a terrible idea. And it is a terrible idea. And I'd like to enumerate the reasons why it's a terrible idea. But first, before I get there, I want to tell you that this is a really common thought. Even if you've never like had an edible and then just like put on an album and hung out on the back and just chilled. Like, this is a really common thought, especially for newer writers who enjoy a good thought experiment, or a younger, undisciplined writer who hasn't quite grasped that, hey, how come I never see this in publication? It's because it's a dumb idea. But let me explain to you why it's a dumb idea, rather than just, trusting one more white dude as to why it's a bad idea. Here's why it's a bad idea. Because if your character is both the hero and the villain, those two forces, whomever they are, no matter what they are, I don't care whether they're a regular person or a superhero vigilante or a deity or a wizard or a bard or just a lady or who knows what, right? No matter who they are, their two forces will cancel each other out because they would have automatically diametrically opposed goals and they'll never accomplish anything. The sort of crunchier part of this is called the Ziggy principle. C-Z-E-G-E, Ziggy. The Ziggy principle says this: if a character is both the instigator of a problem and the solver of the problem, automatically the situation is rendered boring and solved. An example would be this. I'm hungry and I have the ability to make a sandwich. Therefore, I will not be hungry long. If your character is the hero and they are also the villain, their two forces won't ever, you won't get anywhere. You'll take a step forward and take a step back and pretty much stay where you are. And then the story just kind of, lays there. I don't know how else to say that. If you aren't talking about that, though, if you're talking more about the idea of we want the hero of the story to be a bad person, well, that's a different scenario. For that, I would recommend you go look at the Parker novels or go look at something more typically framed with an anti-hero. But by and large, if you want the readership, I guess we could call it that, the readership to root for, the bad guy, you have to make them okay with understanding that the bad guy is really who we should be following. And we don't necessarily want to make them sympathetic because that weakens the bad guyness, but we do want to make sure that we're following a bad guy in a bad world doing bad guy stuff. But even then, they're not the hero and the villain. They're just a character who's still a hero who just happens to be doing not hero things. Your particular use of the word hero and villain here suggests two separate roles, which should be opposed. Even if now your character is a hero and the antagonistic force is internal. It's a feeling. They don't let themselves, they feel compelled to sing and they want to be a musician, but they never really give themselves a chance in front of a microphone. They're not the villain of the story. Just because your character faces opposition doesn't make that opposition automatically the antagonist or the antagonistic force. Sometimes it's just a challenge they have to overcome. If you have a character who wants to, like, climb a mountain, the mountain isn't by default the bad guy until the mountain does something deliberate to affect the hero. Here, though, you're just creating a word salad. We're just tossing around some terms and how would we do it? Don't come up with a better premise. Come up with a better detailed story. Come up with a better, stronger, clearer idea. Because where's your tension? Where's your conflict? How is the reader supposed to give a shit? How is the reader supposed to care? Why should the reader care? Because if you have a plot, if you have a premise, if you have a story structure that pretty much, has an equal number of pluses and minuses, a little bit of hero and a little bit of villain, and it reaches more or less a balance point, what you are saying is that the reader, no matter who they are, is the reader solely because you, the person, wrote it. And that's just an ego trip. And I don't know if you know this, but there's an awful lot of writers who are relying on ego and personality to mask a lack of writing skill and talent. So if you're counting on, well, I have friends and I know who I am, to make up for the fact that you can't figure out how to tell a story, or you can't figure out how to make your villain and your hero distinct in a way that creates tension so that another human being who you don't fucking know is going to sit there and have an emotional, imaginative, escapist experience into your art, I don't know what to tell you. I guess ask more questions. Come up with a better premise. Try again. And that's how we're starting tonight. That's not even on the list of 12 questions. That's just a bonus. Ooh, all right. How about we hit that first question, though? A structural question. Oh, I love a good structural question. John, do act breaks have to coincide with chapter breaks? What does that mean? What are we talking about? So, do you have to make sure that Act 1 ends at the or ends at the end of a chapter? Does Act 2 have to start at the start of a chapter? That kind of thing. And the answer is no. It can be helpful sometimes for some writers in some stories or in some drafts of some stories to sit down and shape their work that way, because it's easy to think about in terms of it like being a discrete, here is my chapter 4. When it is done, all that stuff's done and I can start chapter 5 fresh. It can be very helpful for a writer to develop and think that way. And in a drafting process, totally fine. No one cares. It's going to really help you. Super great. Awesome. Do it. But in terms of it being a hard and fast rule, in terms of it being it has to be this way, it doesn't. You can have your act break back in the middle of a scene. Because remember, the act breaks themselves are things triggered by other stuff. Act 2 starts the minute the plot kicks off. So if the plot kicks off in the middle of a scene, then that's where Act 2 starts. Act 2 ends with the move to the climax. If the climax happens, or it starts to happen at the end of a chapter, and you're not ending the chapter yet, the climax is still in the middle of that chapter, that's fine. Your act break does not have to match up with your chapter breaks. Likewise, the flip side of this coin is also true. You can extend things across multiple chapters. You can have a climax that takes more than a chapter. You can have an act that takes multiple chapters. How many chapters? Well, that's really up to you. It depends on how many chapters you have. It depends on how long the chapters are. It depends on what you're trying to say or do. But you don't have to line up the endings with things the way we used to when we were trying to make, I'm going to date myself now, mixtapes with cassettes. And we were really trying to eliminate that sort of space gap between tracks so that the girl we liked would think that we had taste. Remember those days, everybody? No? Oh, okay, just me? Fine. But no, your act break does not have to coincide with your chapter break. On we go. A theme question. Oh shit, a theme question. In a fantasy novel, is it better to attach your theme to your subplot or your main plot? This is, by and large, one of the most frequent, current, ongoing debates in publishing. There is no one right answer here. Just understand, depending on where you attach your theme, If you attach it to a fairly small subplot, you are not necessarily going to give that theme a lot of room to develop and a lot of presence in the story because you're attaching it to a smaller thing than your main plot. But that doesn't mean themes only have to go with your main plot. They don't. Sometimes, if let's say you have multiple themes, you can have a theme over there on your main plot because it really works together nicely and it's a big deal and you want to definitely put a spotlight to it. But your subplot, whatever it might be, might also have a theme, but a different theme and a smaller theme because it's a smaller plot. It's a subplot. It's not necessarily automatically better by default just because it goes to the main plot. Because some main plots are really broad and it sort of hinges on the fact that it's an umbrella under which, loads of subplots exist, like Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings plot takes 3 goddamn books. It's over 1,000 pages, and the plot is basically we got to chuck this ring in that volcano, and it's going to take a good long goddamn time to do it. And while we're following these 2 people along, there's like a ton of other stuff that's happening. And that's fine. There's still a theme associated with that. There's still themes associated with the other stuff. Sometimes it's the same theme twice. That's delightful. But by and large, you can attach a theme to any plot, to any character arc, to anything in the story that isn't world building. World building doesn't really hold themes, because world building is just creating constructs. It's making stuff. It's the headset, it's the microphone, it's the table, it's the desk, it's the lights, it's the weather outside. There's not really a theme there because it's not translatable like that for your reader. Does that make sense? So is it better? It depends. It depends on what the theme is. Depends on how complicated both the plot and the subplots are. Some themes work better with main plots depending on the kind of story you're telling, because they're more critical to the main character, they're more critical to the main plot. And some subplots, because of how small they are, handles other themes better. Just the way that it is. It depends, and that's not always consistent from story to story. So it's not necessarily better. It's whatever delivers the theme best. Do that. Great question, though. Love that question. What's the best way to pull off a character misdirection? Oh, shit, we're going to have to get spicy again. Okay, look. Character misdirection is the idea that, let's say you've got a crime or a crisis and you want to blame character A, and we all think A is the one who did it, but really it's B over there. There's a sound effect that goes with this. Hang on, let me just move this. It's not really B, or it's not really A, it's B. You get what I'm saying? That misdirection is a kind of a hard, quick snap of the wheel to change reader focus and direction. Make sense? Everybody see what I'm talking about there? How you pull that off, how you construct that, is about balancing the amount of time and space you dedicate to both the thing that you want to draw attention to, like the possibility of them being the killer or the crime or the problem, as well as the character you want to misdirect to and the character you want to misdirect from. If you spend a lot of time lingering on a character for whatever reason, attention will be paid by the reader to that, because why are we still talking about Tom? It's just a lot of Tom. Some readers, more savvy than others, will pick up and go, they're spending too much time on Tom. Too much time on Tom. Tom clearly can't be the killer. My mother does this with stories, by the way. You give her a book, you give her a TV show, she'll spot the killer right away. And other than that, she'll spot like, oh, that's the misdirect. That's the red herring. She's got like a 90-something% batting average on this. It's ridiculous. But by and large, the best way to pull misdirection is to understand the things you're balancing. If you want to suggest that it's could be A, but it's really B, no matter what the thing is, you've got to make sure that both A and B are likely candidates to do the thing. They have the necessary skill, the necessary technique, the necessary availability, whatever prerequisites are required for the accomplishing of the thing you are misdirecting from. If it's a theft, if it's a murder, if it's a job, if it's a thing, it's a whatever. Both A and B could be candidates who have done it. That's a given. You're going to need to do that because all of a sudden, if you're misdirecting to if it's a murder and you're misdirecting to a character who couldn't possibly have killed the other guy, it's not really much of a misdirect. You want to make sure that the characters are relatively similar along some lines of development so that it stands to reason that the reader could guess wrong and start thinking, oh, it's Tom, but really it's Kevin. Or it's not Kevin, it's really Tom, or vice versa, whatever your setup is. But the best way to do that is to make sure your characters both have the potential to do the thing, and then as you develop the story, all of a sudden find one reason, one factor, one issue, one thing, whatever it is, one thing that suddenly eliminates the misdirected character from contention. It could be Kevin. It could be Tom. It could be Kevin. It could be Tom. Let the point of view character make an assumption because the reader will follow along. But then all of a sudden realize, oh, because of this new piece of information gained deep in Act 2, all of a sudden, holy shit, it couldn't have been Tom. It's really been Kevin this whole time. And then we get a climax with an interaction with Kevin, and all of a sudden our story stakes escalate, and we're able to move the story forward. But it's about being able to create the appearance of equal opportunity between all your characters. And I'm only highlighting 2, but you could do this with 5. You could do this with 10. It's just going to be a lot more work. It doesn't necessarily make it better work, but it's easier to talk about in terms of 2. Because most frequently you're going to encounter one who did it and then the red herring. You don't really need more than 2 or 3. It's just extra, unnecessary extra that you don't need if you're going to do more than 3. But the best way to do it is to create enough similarity, then all of a sudden, whoosh, take one off the table, force the reader back on track, force the character into action, drive the story forward. That's the best way to do it. There are a million bad ways to do it. Spend too much time, have one character voice how it couldn't possibly be Tom, blah, blah, blah. And then you just run into a dialogue trope about, what's called shifting the spotlight. And it's tired and old, and we've seen it a billion times, and it's not very original. So instead of just leaving it for characters to rule themselves out just by talking, develop those characters so that they have the potential so that you can develop it in exposition and narration. Build a better story outside of the characters talking. That's the best way to do that. On we go. Are there any questions from anybody in chat while I start killing glasses of water? Anything? Everybody, we good? We're all right? Shall we move on? I think we should move on then. On we go. Hang on. Let's go back. Will I explain what weird fiction is? Where's my... Let me click the button. Yeah, I will totally explain what weird fiction is. Weird fiction is sort of a catch-all term for fiction that doesn't necessarily have another label. Weird fiction is fiction that isn't quite... Well, how do I say this? It isn't quite enough of any one thing. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So weird fiction is sort of the overlap in the Venn diagram between some, but not all, science fiction, fantasy, Western, contemporary, urban fantasy, women's fiction, speculative fiction, horror, thriller. It's kind of like... I'm trying to find like a not shitty way to explain this to you. It's a catch-all. It's a really broad term that gets slapped on damn near anything that doesn't have enough of any other genre material to be dedicated to that genre. So it's science fiction. It is exactly the catch-all drawer. You're going to find like a screwdriver, a couple pens, 2 takeout menus, a busted-ass chip clip that nobody seems to want to throw away, half a pot holder, and like a scratch pad for notes. It's kind of this big umbrella under which a lot of different stuff kind of gets forgotten. It is a viable genre. It is a viable thing that a lot of magazines, zines, and short periodicals want to produce because it can be so diverse. But by and large, in terms of large-scale production, traditional publishing, big-ass books, all that shit, you're not really going to see weird fiction at that level. Or if you are, it's going to be reduced. It's going to be more, weird science fiction or weird horror, where weird, instead of becoming the defining label, is now kind of like a partial label. But by and large, it's a term that we would use if we didn't know what else to call it. We'd call it weird fiction. In the same way that if you ever go into Hollywood and you ever start writing scripts and dealing with screenwriters and studios, they're going to use the word interesting. Oh, that's really interesting. That's a very interesting idea. That's not code for, oh, that's great. That's code for, I don't know what to do about it. It doesn't really move me enough. It moved me a little and not enough for me to commit. It's okay, I guess, but I don't want to say it's okay. I want to, make it at least sound sort of positive, so I call it interesting. Weird is the interesting for publishing, while also still being a genre. What a great question. Let's go march over to the next one, though. It's a good question. I hope that explanation made sense. Question number 4. What if I'm happy with a small readership and a small amount of sales? Is that so bad? No, that's not bad at all. Good for you. If you have reached the point, whatever point that is, where you're genuinely happy, you had a goal, you've reached it, maybe you've exceeded it even, but you don't have an urge or desire to push farther. You just don't need to. You just don't want to. You're happy where you're at, and you're not feeling unsatisfied by it. It's not like you're settling for this level. You've just reached a point where you're happy. I'm good like this. There is nothing wrong with that at all. That is completely and absolutely fine. That's ideal. We all want to reach that point where we're okay. The fact that it's small, whether it's small readership or small sales, small is really just a point of reference compared to somebody else. But if you're happy, if you're where you're at and it's good for you, who gives a shit if it's small or big? Because it's exactly where you want to be. You can eliminate that comparative. What if I'm happy with the size of my readership and sales? Well, then you've made it. You've won the contest. Have a party horn, in fact, have air horns. Because you've done exactly what you've set out to do. It's not bad at all. Now, granted, we live in a capitalist, bullshit, racist, sexist, patriarchal, destructive society that's going to tell you that at no point should you ever settle, because there's always more money to be made. There's always more people to exploit. There's always more harm to do in an effort to grow whatever financial shit they swear to you is important. Your corporate, gerontocratic masters are going to tell you to never settle and never stop. But that's harmful. That's painful. That's pointless. If you're at a point where you're happy and it's doing all the things you want it to do, whether that's I'm selling to 5 people, I'm selling to 50 people, I'm selling to 5,000 people, whatever. If you're happy where you're at, then enjoy it. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't reinvent the wheel. Do this at this level for as long as you're happy, for as long as you can, and later if you want to change it up, change it up. But if you're happy where you're at, hang out there. Nothing wrong with that. Don't rub it in other people's faces. Don't be a jerk about it. But enjoy where you're at if you're happy there. Not the end of the world. People are going to kill to be as happy as you are. Enjoy it. What a great question. Question 5. We're back to the spice. Question 5. If I can't find anyone to speak to me about their experiences, does that mean I cannot write about those experiences? Okay, now you see where it says experiences in this question? They're talking about marginalized communities. They're talking about communities of which they do not belong. You understand that? You get what I'm saying? They're not talking about people like them. They're talking about people that are somehow not them, whether by dint of gender, identity, race, ethnicity, ability, number of toes, who knows what. There maintains, for usually a stupid reason, some notion inside publishing that if you're not a member of Group X, you should not speak about X. And it gets real divisive and it gets real hot real fast because people inside Group X, whatever group it is, are really, really, really tired of people outside Group X making some amount of assumption, some amount of statement, some amount of just plain old guesses as to what that experience of being in X may be. There is a chance, now we just have to look at the pure math of it, there is a chance that people outside X are able to put words to the experience of X. Not entirely, but to some degree enough to sort of like be in the parking lot of the neighborhood of X. Okay? But by and large, people in an in-group will be always able to verbalize, express, and develop their experience within that group because they're a member of that group. And anybody on the outside is just kind of like guessing, gleaning, or making broad assumptions and trying to put 2 and 2 and 2 together and hoping they get 6, as opposed to 2, 2, and 2 together and getting like 5 and a third. It, however, does not mean that you can't write about those experiences. If you're not a member of X, you can write about X, but like a Sir Mix-a-Lot kind of but, like huge and massive level but, you better run that shit past multiple people. Rather than relying on your assumption, rather than relying on like one avenue that you have, like, oh my God, I have all these friends in this one like social media platform and I'm using that information to inform me. No, don't do that. Like, go out and go make an effort. The idea that I can't find anyone to speak to me about their experiences tells me that you've either not asked enough people or you've asked in a way that is just discourteous, rude, racist, sexist, assumptive, wrong, or you just really haven't bothered. It's not enough just to go, I need a person from this community to quickly just read this paragraph. That's not it. That's not enough. Not even remotely close. If you're engaging with, if you're dealing with, if you need to discuss for whatever reason, information, content, material, and experience of a group of which you are not a member, you definitely need, if you want that experience and you want that whatever it is to come across accurately, not just factually accurately, but emotionally accurately. If you're trying to get that information across to people who are also not members of X, you have to go engage with members from X. Not just like, hey, read this and give me a permission slip. Pat me on the head. Give me a gold star. Make sure I didn't do the racist shit. That is like the bare minimum for entry. That is the lazy, cheap way out. And I'm not interested in that. I want you to go find people from Group X and ask honest but difficult questions. And I want you to admit the privilege that you have that keeps you out of Group X. Or be at least aware of the things that separate you from X that you don't experience. And here's the hard part. Here's the very hard part for some groups. Don't center yourself in that discussion because it's not about you. It's about them. So in the course of you engaging with them, in the course of you interacting with them, if you find that you were doing the majority of the talking, you've fucked up. You done goofed. You've made an error. Horror. Terrible. Ring the red alert. Like, bad. Stop. Pull yourself out. Pull yourself back. Try again. The whole point in being able to access and discuss and advance other people's experiences and lens their experience through your work and your experience in their work and everybody's experience through everybody else's media is to find the things that bind us as well as divide us, as well as give us insight, as well as give us opportunity, as well as help grant us a better level of peace and wisdom and understanding. That's the whole fucking point. It isn't just to tick imaginary social justice points off some scorecard. It isn't the whole point of just satisfying the conditions of some bullshit social media group. The whole point where you should go find people from X and admit that you don't know shit about it and you genuinely want to learn, and then you go learn and you go make some mistakes and you go have those difficult conversations and you work on yourself rather than just demonstrate or show off that, hey, look, I talked to a member of X. Aren't I better than you? It's about understanding yourself by seeing yourself in other people and seeing how other people aren't you, but understanding that we are all cooperatively dependent. You get that? Bees and trees and squirrels and flowers and plants and birds and bugs and whales and water. Everything connects or doesn't connect, and we have to put that into our art. And if you're standing there with your hands crossed, stamping your foot, like, oh man, I can't write about a thing because I only know racist expectations, good, don't write it. The whole point of this is so that you have to go out and actually do some thinking, do some research, do some discussing, rather than just rely on the 10 things you can glean from one person in the community, so that you don't just have one person representing the whole. You speak to several different people, a diversity of people, get a diversity of experience and opinion, so that you can be better informed. And that maybe if you've been fucking some shit up, you'll learn to do better, because that's really all we're hoping for. So does that mean you can't write about those experiences? No, you can still do it. Just you're more and more, responsible for the good and bad that comes from your lack of engaging with people of that group. It's on you. Don't screw it up. Next question. Oh, man, gentle advice. I'm still writing my book. I have no idea what my cover will be. What do I write in any early newsletters? So I talk to a lot of people, and I follow a lot of writers, and I see a lot of writers using social media to describe and develop their process. They answer questions on TikTok. They post little things on Instagram. They hold all manner of little, like, quick info dump kind of a thing. And almost universally, at some point, everybody runs into the, I don't know what to talk about question. As if all of a sudden they've just run out of interesting things. Everything you do, here, come here. Everything you do is interesting because your process is not somebody else's process. Everything you do is interesting. So even if you can only point to the fact that you had to you wrote 200 words today because the phone didn't stop ringing. Hey, guess what? That's an experience that maybe not specifically other people have had. Maybe they only got 300 words done because their kids wouldn't leave them alone. But there's something there that you can speak to. There's something there that you can do something about. There is always something to talk about. Just because later in other newsletters, at other times, at other things down the road, there'll be more things to talk about or different things to talk about, that's fine. But in those early stages where you don't have a big professional book business announcement, you can still talk about what it was like to write this, what you were worried about, how you were excited, how you learned to write it better after like 10 tries. You know, there's always something. What matters is that you find the tools and you find the words so that you can verbalize and express it. Even when it's something small and insignificant or not good enough to talk about when it comes to, like, I wrote chapter 5 today. Okay, tell me all about chapter 5. Was it hard to do? Was it easy to do? Did you struggle with it? Were there like 3 attempts? Did you consider like 5 different options? How did you pick the one you did? What do you do now? Are you proud of it? Do you need to spend more time? Are you worried about what a beta reader or an editor or a publisher will say? Are you worried about, trying to get this language across right? Did it teach you anything about yourself? Did it teach you anything about your writing process? Everything you do is worth examining Just that some things are going to naturally generate more examination because they're bigger. But you can put anything you want in the early newsletters. Anything. Pictures of how, bored your dog is as you sat there and wrote in the morning. Pictures of your cats camped out on your keyboard when you got up to get more iced tea. The number of Pinterest image searches you did because you were trying to find one particular shade of color because you wanted to describe one sentence in a book. You could talk about anything. That's the whole point. A newsletter isn't only there just to sort of aggregate the sales info. The newsletter is there for you to express how the sausage, whatever your sausage is, gets made. How it's going, where it's going, what you want to do with it, why you do it, how you do it. Because there are people out there who only want the finished product, and there are other people out there who want to know how the finished product got there, and they want the finished product. And there are other people who don't care about the finished product, but they like to see the process because maybe it will inspire them. You can talk about any damn thing in the early newsletter you want. Don't overthink it. Okay? It's a great question. Are there any questions from anybody in chat? No? Anybody? I'm going to press a button, and we're going to see what it does. It might not do anything, but we're going to press it anyway. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Nothing happened. It's okay. But that's fine because there's another question. Apparently, when I press this button, nothing happens, but somebody asks a question, so maybe it's okay. What are other ways an author can reach their audience? Does it have to be a newsletter? No, it doesn't have to be a newsletter. Newsletters is like the popular thing. But depending on your age, depending on your gender, depending on your race, depending on your time, depending on your effort, you might have a better experience using something like TikTok. You might have something better like just using Instagram. You might have there's a million different tools. It doesn't have to be a newsletter. Maybe it's short YouTube videos. One of my absolute favorite creators of anything, it's a guy named Mark Ellis. He's fantastic on YouTube. He just had his first child. And his whole thing, his newsletter, because he blogs every day, he produces multiple videos a week. He's a full-on content creator. But his newsletter is like a 10-minute video. We get it, I think it's every Thursday. And it's sometimes he talks about like cool shit he got from a sponsor that didn't make it into a review. Other times he just talks about how great it is to be a dad. Other times he talks about just how like, here's how the money is, broken down or distributed or whatever. And he can talk about anything. The idea is that you reach your audience somehow in whatever medium and to whatever degree suits you, making it easy for you to do, and helps them access it. Like don't try and don't make it really hard for your readership to communicate with you. A newsletter can be replied to with an email. TikTok can be, stitched? Is that the language for it? Instagram can be replied to, that kind of thing. There needs to be some method of communication between audience and reader, but the medium through which you communicate, entirely up to you. Does not have to be a newsletter. You could do it through, just audio drops. That's what they used to do on World Star Hip Hop, or Mixtape Monkey used to do that. It could be YouTube clips, it could be TikTok, it could be reels or shorts or whatever they're calling them now. Whatever gets you out to your people, that's what matters. There are some people I know who, like, in an effort to communicate with their people, got tired of writing newsletters. So they instead took what they thought was an easier route and produced a full-on YouTube news show with, like, a graphics package and a desk and thousands of dollars in equipment because somehow that was easier than writing 4 paragraphs. I don't get it. I don't think it's any easier. It's completely different. I think the newsletter I write is faster, but the video is apparently more it is occasionally more engaging. I don't know. It makes me a little nervous because sometimes, like, I just don't know what to say, at least in terms of, like, whether or not it works better in text or works better visually. But yeah, just however you reach your people, reach your people. That's probably the best way to say it. All right. On we go. On we go. I'm going to sneeze. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Nope, we're going to sneeze. Hang on. Enjoy some polka for 10 seconds while I sneeze. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it. What question are we on? 7. Here we are. Thanks for the polka sneeze. We might have to do that more often. It was also really amusing. Question number 7. If I want the antagonist from book 1 to return in book 3, how do I write the ending to book 1 so that it makes sense? Well, on one hand, you probably don't want to kill off the antagonist if they're going to come back in 2 books. Because in most story structures, death is pretty permanent. In some genres and some story structures, death is not permanent. So the potential for killing him in book 1 doesn't mean or doesn't exclude them from the possibility of being in book 3. But by and large, if you want them to come back and be an antagonist the way they were before, the thing you're trying to manage here is the resolution, because you still need to give book 1 a resolution. It doesn't count. It's not, well, it counts, but it's shit. So it doesn't really count. If you just have the bad guy run out the door, smoke bomb, disappear, that's awful. You've just cheated your reader out of the satisfaction from reading the whole book. You've basically just told them that you don't give a shit about their experience. You just want them to spend more money. It's the height of laziness. It's the height of arrogance. It's just bad form and bad construction. But if you want the bad guy from book 1 to come back in book 3 and serve a different role, then you don't need to kill them so much as just defeat them or stop them. But in terms of whatever the ending of book 1 is, knowing that you're going to bring this character back, you've got to first establish, how am I going to bring them back in book 3? Like, what's their function in book 3? Are they just there to, like, be the villain again? Or are they there to, like, just sort of be in the background or just get mentioned? Whatever their function in book 3 is, they've got to be able to accomplish that after book 1. So consider where book 2 would be. During that time and space, they need to be able to transition into book 3. But specifically and solely for the first book, you are on the hook. You still need to produce a complete and satisfying story. If you don't make it satisfying because you smoke bomb and the bad guy runs away, you're missing the whole point of this question. It doesn't make it more intense. It doesn't keep the reader engaged. It doesn't add suspense. It doesn't mean like, oh shit, I have to run out and buy book 2 and then just get through that and then jump to book 3, because that's not how any of this shit works. The whole point here is that if I only read this one book because I only have access to this one book, I want a good book experience. So what ending in book 1 is going to give them the most satisfaction? What ending for book 1 is going to work for the reader? And then whatever that ending is, think about it, put it in your head. And then what changes do I have to make from that thing I just put in my head so that the antagonist from book 1 has the ability to reappear? So, yeah, it might be hyper satisfying to have the antagonist killed at the end of book 1, but we want him back for book 3. So can we not totally kill them? Can we kill them but not necessarily see the body? We just have them, plummet off the side of the waterfall. Can, we assume that because we heard them scream into the darkness as they fell off the cliff, that all of a sudden, they're gone? But no, then they're back later. Take your perfect ideal ending as if there were no book 3 and then modify it so that book 3 can exist. That's how you do it. That's how you give yourself that wiggle room. That's how also you plan to move forward, going forward over time. I don't know why my light is being all wonky. Sorry. We'll just sit up straight and lean forward in the chair. Yeah, what are you going to do? So you want to leave yourself enough space and enough time and enough room so that book 1 can be read on its own. Because remember, in a series, you treat each book as if it's the only book in the series. Because maybe for some readers it will be. All right? Great question. On we go. Question 8. How can I better prepare to have a long-term career with writing as a side hustle rather than a main gig? This question, look, I got to tell you, I don't get this question a lot. I know it's a thing people ask, but it doesn't come up a lot. Most people are like, I got to have writing be my main thing. I want to pay my mortgage with my books. I want to get out from the shitty job I have. And that's great. That's awesome. More power to you. I hope you get there one day. But there's a long path between where you are and that goal. And in the interim, prior to that goal, writing is going to be the side hustle. So how do you prepare for success there? Well, here you go. Here's a few tips. You're going to need to now, before we totally transition into a side hustle, totally, leverage it going forward, you're going to need to be able to summon a level of discipline and distinction. What does that mean? You're going to need to put your ass in the chair. You're going to need to be able to eliminate the distractions and make sure you can carve out time for this. Because even though it's a side hustle, a term I can't stand, even though it's a side hustle, it's not a hobby. A hobby you can get interrupted with. You can put down for a long period of time and come back to, and there won't necessarily be a great fall off in its yield or productivity because it's just a thing you're doing whenever. If you're knitting a blanket and you put the needles and the yarn down and then come back to it 4 weeks later, the amount of blanket you produced so far hasn't evaporated. It's the same amount of blanket. However, writing wise, if you're trying to stoke an audience, build attention, develop a sales marketing platform, grow your audience, all that stuff, if you walk away from that stuff, just like a tide pulling away from the shore, you're going to lose some of that material. So you want to make sure that while you're doing it, while you're planning for it, you're planning on it to be a thing you spend some but not all time on. And that means you might have to push against some status quo boundaries. It might mean you have to have some difficult conversations. It might mean you have to tell other people what you're doing. And you might have to weather whatever their statements or responses are. Maybe they'll be supportive. Maybe they'll be doubtful. I don't know. You won't know until you do it. But you still have to do it. So how can you equip this to be a better side hustle, a better secondary avenue? Make sure you give yourself the time. That's going to be job number 1. Job number 2, make sure you treat it seriously. Just because it's not a main gig doesn't mean it's not important. And yeah, I know, you've got a main gig, whatever it is. It's probably something involving capitalism and wage theft and exploitation of your labor. I'm sure it is. And it leaves you feeling exhausted. It leaves you feeling tired. It leaves you feeling beat up a little. And that can often lead you to not want to do anything in your off hours. I get it. There are times I just want to put my feet up and unplug. Sure. But when the task is important, when the thing needs to happen, because if I don't do this, I don't eat. If I don't do this, there's no lights in this room. And when I take time off to handle whatever I handle, to do anything else, this suffers and my bank account suffers as a result. You got to know that going in. You got to make sure either you can treat this like a thing seriously and you can plan for those gaps and plan for those breaks and be able to sit down and go, okay, now we're doing this and we're going to do this thing this long, this often. And you schedule it and you stick to it. Or you sort of like prep in advance so that as time passes and you're otherwise engaged, you've already got stuff done. Like if you're putting out content, if you're producing videos, you've got a pile of them queued up. That's all part of what you can do to buy yourself some wiggle room in your schedule so that as a side project, it can stay on the side without jeopardizing the rest of the house of cards that you've built that is your life. Your preparation of any kind, whether that's time management, scheduling, activity, energy, hydration, exercise, whatever, all those things work together. All of them work together in an effort to really effectively help make writing at whatever scale effectively equitable, manageable, viable. Thanks, robot. I forgot to turn the volume down. I had the speaker on before. Sorry. Anyway, you wanted to give this sense. No, stop it. Hang on. No, shut up. I don't give a shit about Nancy Pelosi. Okay, sorry about that. You want to make sure you give it some discipline. You want to make sure you give it a sense of structure and organization. You want to make sure you treat it with, why the fuck did it talk to me about Nancy Pelosi? Don't do that to me. You want to make sure you treat it with a level of organization, because that's really the best way to handle a side hustle. That's really the best way to handle a second business, another thing you do. Organize for it, plan for it, execute it to the best of your ability as frequently as possible. That's how you do it. And then just start writing. Keep producing. Stick to a schedule, develop whatever you need. All right? What a great question. All right. Before we get into the spiciest of spicy questions, I'm going to unplug this thing. So here, stare at the title screen for 10 seconds. I'll be right back. Do you want some polka? Have some polka. All right, there we go. We're back. I unplugged the damn thing. I should have done that before. I apologize. All right, where were we? We were on the spiciest question of the evening. Oh, boy, here we go. John, is it possible to fix RevPit? We'll just do that. No, it is not possible to fix RevPit, and here's why. RevPit doesn't want to be fixed. There's nothing to fix. RevPit works the way it does. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you have no idea what this is, let me explain it to you. So in traditional publishing, you take your manuscript and you write what's called a query letter, which is basically a pitch. And you send it to a person who reads it, likes it, signs you to a contract, and then on your behalf exploits your labor, taking a percentage of the money you'd get to facilitate a conversation between you and someone else. Now, the polite term is middle person. A more accurate term is pimp. So in RevPit, to win, you make a pitch, and a pimp likes what you do, and says, hey, send me your thing to read. Now, just so we're clear, just so you understand what I'm talking about, if you don't enter RevPit, and there are a million different kinds of pits, but if you don't participate, you can still send these people your shit. Winning RevPit, the thing you win, is exactly the same opportunity you had before you knew RevPit was RevPit. The prize is the exact same activity you were doing before, so how is it really a prize? It's more of the same thing. But that's what RevPit is for. Do not buy the hype on, oh, it's about mentors and mentees. Oh my God, my wrist is doing that thing from the voice video again. Because it's not about mentors and mentees. Because if it was about mentors and mentees, do you know what would happen instead of this long, protracted hype-building contest on social media? All these experts would sit down and for multiple weeks across multiple platforms for free, they'd tell you how to do this. And then they would facilitate you doing this. And then the path to publication via a pimp would be a lot easier. Have you ever noticed that all the big name authors who are already published or continuing to publish don't do this? Have you ever wondered why? If their goal is to immediately facilitate publication, their goal is to, put this thing out there and make it easier for them, why wouldn't they at least participate? Wouldn't you want a big-ass name in front of your contest? I wonder why they don't want that. I wonder why this thing only seems to exist in certain platforms on social media, seems to only exist for a small segment of the entire population doing the activity, and doesn't really seem to automatically guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee a contract. It doesn't guarantee a cash prize. It doesn't guarantee an advance. It doesn't guarantee a readership. It doesn't guarantee anything. You win a chance to send a pimp your stuff. The same pimp could read your stuff if you just submitted it during an open submission window. You wouldn't need RevPit. RevPit isn't broken. RevPit is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And if you're about to go, hey, John, what's RevPit supposed to do? I'll tell you what RevPit is supposed to do. It's supposed to keep you on social media and keep you not writing. RevPit, their entire job is to give the appearance of improving the industry, citing recognition, citing representation, developing things, strengthening the writer-agent window, giving somebody a different kind of access to publication. But it's all bullshit. Because these pimps are just another kind of gatekeeper. And RevPit is just a contest to dance for their amusement while the organ plays. It's another game of musical chairs. And they brainwashed you all into thinking you have to play. Oh, you want to be part of RevPit. Only all the cool kids are part of RevPit. I thought the cool kids were fucking publishing their books. RevPit's not broken. I'm a guy I murdered RevPit. You know why I say that? Because I started talking about how bullshit it was. And then all of a sudden, several RevPits closed their shop. Oh, we don't do this kind of RevPit anymore. We're pulling back. There's still some going around, but a lot of the big ones stopped. Now, maybe I'm not the cause, but my ego says, yo, you're part of the cause at the very least. RevPit's not broken. It's a trap. It's designed to keep you on the platform, keep you typing, keeping you feeling inferior, keeping you feeling like you don't know what you're doing, keeping you feeling like you're just at the gas station scratching off a scratch-off ticket, hoping upon hope that when you buy the Wonka bar, it's got the golden ticket in it. When in reality, you can get that golden ticket by skipping all this shit. You can get published. You can publish your own work. If you really want a pimp, you can go get a pimp. You don't need a contest. You just got to do the same steps. And then understand that all you're paying for is somebody to, negotiate a deal. And if you're like, but John, we need them. They're not lawyers. They're not lawyers. They're people who write emails and make phone calls. Do you write emails and make phone calls? I wrote emails and made phone calls today. We don't need them. Oh, but John, they have a Rolodex. You could have that Rolodex. You just need a piece of paper. You can do these things. They're not piercing, you're not climbing some walled garden. They just know who to talk to. You can find out who to talk to. But you don't, because they've convinced you that you need this pimp to help exploit your labor to take, between 5 and 10% of your hard work and then call it a day. I'll give you one more thing to think about. Did you ever notice that in these contests, they tell you not to use an edited manuscript, and that when you talk about, I'm going to get it edited, they freak the fuck out? Did you ever wonder why that is? Here's exactly why that is. Because if you take away what the pimp is going to do, because really what the fuck do they do but a breezy copy edit? Because they're still going to farm it out to a copy editor or farm it out to a developmental editor. But if you take away their opportunity, you take away their thing to do, they're just kind of sitting there, twiddling their little agenty thumbs, waiting for somebody to come along so they can take 5 to 10% of your work and 5 to 10% of your money. Why would you ever be okay with that? Why would I no, don't fix RevPid. Burn it all to the ground. Burn it all to the ground. We don't need a single one of them. All these experts, what they should be doing is teaching. If they unlocked all the secrets, if they knew exactly how to make everything work, if they knew every little piece of exactly what to do, why aren't they just telling you how to do it? Either they don't know, or they're not really experts, or they have no interest in helping you. Maybe all three. It's a rigged game, and they love it when you play. Don't fix RevPed. Oh, so spicy. So spicy, in fact, I need more water. That's the question that's going to fill my inbox with a lot of angry people. It was spicy. I know. You know what? The truth can be spicy sometimes. Everything they do, you could do, but they've convinced you that you can't. Because otherwise they wouldn't have a job. You could talk to publishers. You could demand more money. You could talk to a printer. You can get a quote. You could do all those things. You could find somebody to edit or copy edit your work. You could do all those things. Probably even faster. Why not? Except, hang on, we'll go full screen for this. Look, if you're going to do this without, where's my microphone? If you're going to do all this without them, you know what you're doing? You're self-publishing. And they don't like that. You understand? Because if you take them out of the equation, you're getting it. You're dealing with your editor. You're dealing with the publisher. You're negotiating the contracts. You're setting up printing if you need to. That's like 1 or 2 steps removed overall from self-publishing as a whole. They don't want that. They don't want that. They want you swimming in a little circle, feeling like you're making progress, but somehow some shit's just outside your ken. You're just going to keep doing the same thing a million times and hoping you somehow get different results. Because that's what they want. They don't want you critically thinking. They don't want you critically examining this. They don't want you trying. They want you to doing the same fucking thing over and over. Go to them for answers. Be dependent on them for answers. Don't question the emperor without their clothes. Don't go to somebody like John. Don't go over there to that convention. Don't buy somebody's, scheduler and pamphleteer book and all this shit. Don't do any of that stuff. Try to win my favor. Let me take 5 to 10% of your work. Let me make you feel important. And then, oh, by the way, if your thing sucks, I'm going to resent you and make it difficult for you to move forward because I'm only in this to take 5 to 10% of your work and get the fuck out. But that's not important. Don't think too hard about that. We're going to get you legitimately published because all those other people who are still currently published and selling better, who didn't come to me, that's just a fluke. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Don't look at the millions of people who sell plenty well without an agent. Don't even think twice about that. They're wrong. I don't know how or why they're wrong, but they're wrong because I'm a pimp and I'm here to exploit your labor. That's all. That's all they do. And RevPit is just one of the many tools that allows us to, keep buying into the horseshit they're shoveling on us. But I leave that decision up to you. I know where I stand. Now it's time for you to figure out where you stand. Any other questions, issues, comments, etc.? I like when I get really fired up and everybody else gets real quiet. It makes me feel either really stupid or like I've scared everyone, neither of which is what I'm trying to do. Because then it just feels weird if I segue into like ads or if I, segue into like, hey, if you like what you're seeing, go check out Patreon. Like it feels weird if I suddenly make like a shift. So I'm just going to drink my water and move on. Man. I can't begin to describe to you the depth of like how irritating it is to watch very reasonable people suddenly become very unreasonable the more they demand publishing happen in a certain way. I need an agent. Why? Because I just do. Well, I need a number of things every day. I'm not getting them, but somehow I find a way to soldier on. Nobody's handing me a root beer every day. Nobody is telling me how great their butt looks today. I'm not surrounded by Twizzlers, Starburst, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, or Twix. I'm still struggling with all my debts. But somehow I find a way to move on in the world. I'm sure you, in your life, can also find a way to get your book into the hands of people who will give you money for it. Because that's still the goal, right? You still want people to sell your book to? Because you still want money from the sale of your book? Yeah, you don't want like a loan. You want like money you made, right? So why would you engage in any of the practices that prohibit or prevent or retard or like radically slow down the ability for you to get paid? Like, how does that make you more legit? You can explain that one to me. I don't understand that part. Because if like, look, I don't know where the legitimacy comes. Because were you legit when you sat down to write? No? Were you legit when you finished? No. Were you legit when you finished all the drafts? No. Were you legit when you decided you were going to publish it? No. Were you legit when you queried it? No. Were you legit when you self-published it? No. Were you legit when it you signed a contract and it went to a publisher. Kinda. So really what you're talking about when you talk about being legit, you're talking about the feasibility of producing your mental thing into a product. That's where your legitimacy is when you go into a manufacturing process. I hate to tell you this, but if the point of legitimacy is to be in a physical possession of a physical object of your work, why not just print that shit out? I don't get it. I don't understand. I want to understand. I'm not trying to poke hole. I mean, I'm not trying to like make too much. I'm trying to like poke fun at you. I'm not mocking you. I don't understand. I consider myself a fairly smart human being. But this whole like delayed, like I'm not legit here, I'm not legit here, I'm not legit here, I'm not legit here. I may be legit 10 miles down this road, maybe. Like that just seems like you're denying yourself your own success and you're denying yourself the ability to be proud in the things you've accomplished. Because maybe you're not used to success or you're expecting it to fail or you don't think you're worthy of it or you don't feel justified in it because it wasn't really that hard for you because you actually enjoyed this or maybe you had some talent or it was interesting and it doesn't seem to you that like the things you're interested in should also be able to make you money because that's not what you learned because we were raised in this terrible system. I don't know. But you, not me, not that guy over there, not that lady over there, not the 10 people on social media, whatever. Only you get to determine when you feel legit. Only you. So it's important to you because you keep talking about how you don't feel it and you can't wait until you do feel it. I don't understand why you're taking so long. Just stamp yourself right across here, right across the forehead with the stamp. Boom, legit. Let's go. Because there's still more to do. It's not like we get legit and then we're done. Legit's just the door. It's the threshold we cross. Okay, we're legit. Let's go have a career. Let's go write multiple books. Let's go do other stuff. I don't know why we're stalling. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be freaked out. Just say that. And then let's go. Let's go. We're not going to dwell. We're not going to wallow. We're going to do something about it. Because that's the whole point. I don't get it. I don't get it. But that's just me. What do I know? I'm a guy with a microphone who made like $11 in podcast ads. But that's about it. All right. On we go. Question 10. Is there a trick? I'm missing words in this question. You know how irritating that is for me? Is the trick to writing better MPOV to write more POVs? What is this question asking in English? How do we translate this question? So MPOV is multiple points of view. That's where you have multiple narrating characters in a story. That's hard to do. A lot of people try it. A lot of people do it very, at best, averagely. Okay? We've all read books. We've all heard stories. We've all talked to other writers and critique groups and other things where somebody's writing multiple points of view and we would rather go to the dentist or something. We would rather eat peas and mayonnaise than endure their MPOV, right? So how do we get better at MPOV? Now, one school-ish, one pile of thought is that if MPOV is just having more than one point of view, if we just practice writing more points of view, then in theory we'll be better at MPOV. And that's, if I can make a food analogy, that's like saying you'll get better at making pizza by eating a lot of individual slices. Not the same thing. If you want to get better at making pizza, or if you don't like pizza, let's do it with cake or pie. If you want to get better at making cake or pie, eating the individual slices does not automatically teach you how to make a better cake or pie. It just means you've eaten more individual slices. And believe me, if we're talking ice cream cake, I'm there. But the point here, the trick to writing better MPOV is understanding, if we're going to go back to cake and pie and pizza, how to slice it. so that each slice is more or less the same size, and that each slice has some amount of toppings to it. You're not having like all the pepperoni over on 2 slices and like the barest edge of one pepperoni laying on another slice. We want that nice, even, pizza topping distribution or icing on cake distribution. The trick to writing better MPOV is understanding, one, why you need so many. Why do we have so many points of view in this one book? Like, what are we doing? Not just, oh, well, we have these 4 people at 4 different points on the globe. That's fine. It's not necessary. But what are you trying to accomplish? Well, I have 4 different points of view because I have 4 very different characters who are all trying to accomplish the same goal. That's what I'm talking about. Why are the point of view characters the ones you chose? Why them and not other people? And why this number as opposed to fewer or more? You've got to know those things first. Know those things first, and the rest of this gets a lot easier. And then 2, just practice writing one of them. Just work on one. And then stop and go write another. I understand that in the course of a whole book, you're going to go character A, character B, character C, character D, and then go back to character A. I get it. But while you're writing it, what if, just for the sake of argument, you wrote A all the way through, and then went to B all the way through, and then C all the way through, and D all the way through, and however many all the way through. And then, once everything was all written, you chopped it up and assembled it into, I want A, B, C, D, all the way through my book. What if you did it that way? What's the advantage there? Well, the main problem with MPOV is that either each POV doesn't feel distinct enough, and it just seems like it's the same person with maybe slightly more snark or slightly different outfits. Your POVs don't feel distinct enough. Or 2, you're covering a lot of the same ground, and the story feels incredibly slow because you've got this in your head that all 4 of your characters are running this marathon at the same rate, and you have to keep all 4 of your people moving together. And so when one stops, they all have to stop and then pick up. And no, I mean, you can, but you don't have to. That's not the only way to do this. Each POV, I don't care how many you have, each POV should be able to be ripped out of the book and arranged all on its own and should be a complete story unto itself. So if you're telling me I have 6 point of views, you're telling me you have 6 potentially independent individual stories mashed together inside one manuscript. And then someone goes, well, no, because I have several chapters where they all get together. And that's fine. You can have all the chapters you want where they get back together. You're still going to have one character doing the POVing, and the other characters take a backseat role. And because you don't want to repeat yourself, you don't want to pick up that second point of view and repeat or go back over what just happened with the other one as if you thought the reader didn't read the last chapter. Treat each point of view as though it's the only point of view in the book, and the other POV are just sort of like arranged in the file, and you'll do a lot better at writing MPOV. Side note, you might also learn that you've got too many POV. This is a very good tool. It's a very good trick. It will help you tell a better story, but it will also help narrow the scope. Because there's nothing wrong with MPOV on its face. The real brutality of it, the real messiness of it, comes from the idea that in epic fantasy, you have to do it. And it has to be done a certain way. Because one dude did it, and then it became a TV show. And first of all, that's not everybody's experience. 2, that's not the only way to do it. 3, that's not the best way to do it. And 4, they fucked up that TV show. Don't put it on a pedestal. Treat each POV as though it's the only POV, and you'll have a far better experience at writing POVs. Great question. Oh my, what is with the spice? Are you trying to like get my heart rate up? Is this the idea to like let's just keep John's heart rate jacked up for like 2 hours so I have to take a pill? All right, let's go. Question number 11. Are industry awards really important? Are they things authors should pursue? Do you want a reward? Like, do you want a trophy? Do you want to wear like nice clothes and go somewhere? If you do, yeah, they're awesome. Do they automatically mean a boost in sales? Sometimes. Do they automatically mean a boost in visibility of you as an author? Yep, sometimes. Sometimes not. But sometimes yes. But does that mean you have to go out of your way to hunt them down? Because if for some reason you don't hunt them down or you don't get shortlisted or for it, all of a sudden you failed? No. No. Because all that is yet another way of saying I won't be legit unless ... Are they really important? Well, the awards committees seem to think they're very important because that's what they're here for. Industry publications love to talk about them because it gives them something to talk about. But in terms of will they make you a better writer? Not necessarily. Does it mean that award-winning books are automatically better than non-award winners? No, not really. There are some amazing books that didn't win award one. But what made them amazing was how they affected me as a reader or how they affected you as a reader. And that award, that trophy is subjective. Nobody gives a shit about the little thing you stick on your mantelpiece. If you want to go after them, if you want to push yourself to that, awesome. Do it. Have a great time. Are they sometimes a genital measuring contest? Totally. Are they incredibly political? Oh, absolutely. Are they the be-all, end-all? No. They're just a thing. They're nice. I've been to these award shows. They're boring. They're stuffy. People do not have as great a sense of humor as they would like you to believe. These things are dull and pretentious. And I just yawn thinking about them. Because you just can't rock up in like a t-shirt and a pair of shorts and, Did you ever see I think it was the Source Awards or the BET Awards where like the Wu-Tang Clan showed up and they were just like, they looked like they just rolled out of bed and got off the subway and was just like, we're at this award show, whatever. Yeah, you can't do that at these levels. Why? I don't know. Because you got to tuck your shirt in or wear a fancy dress for reasons. I don't know. But awards are nice, but they should not be the reason why you get into producing this art. Loads of art exists in the world that didn't win an award. It's still good art. Do what makes you happy. Do what moves you so that you can move others. Don't drive yourself crazy. Don't push yourself to the point of aneurysm just because you want a Stoker Award or something. Because you can probably buy that shit on eBay if you really do enough digging. It's fine. You're okay. Don't go off the deep end. Just tell your best story. And hang on, and somehow, some way, wow, we've reached question 12 already. Holy shit. Well, here we go. Gentle advice. Question 12. I wrote my book. It's out on Amazon. Now what? What do you want to do? Really? What do you want to do? I mean, you wrote your book. It's on Amazon. Do your marketing. Sell the book or not. If that's what you want. If you don't want to do the marketing, you just want to put it out there and whatever it is whatever it is, and however it is however it'll be. That's fine. If you want to say, okay, I wrote this book, now I'm immediately going to not deal with the marketing and just go back and write the second one. Hey, guess what? That's fine too. If you did this, the whole thing, and it's out, and you don't want to write another single thing for the rest of time, totally legit. It's all your choice. A lot of people, not necessarily for the best, but a lot of people will then go, well, it's up on Amazon, I have to sell it, and I need to sell X number of copies to make my, to make a profit, to make back my expenses, all that stuff. And then they lay out a schedule to market this thing. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I tweet and Facebook post about whatever. They come up with whatever schedule they want. That's completely fine. Good for them. I hope it works. Other people just want to be able to point to, like, randomly on a website, like, hey, look, that's my book. Cool. And then they go do other things. Other people put it out there and are like, I hate this part of the process. I'm going to go back to the good stuff that I like. I'm going to go back and write. And that's fine too. It doesn't end just because it goes up to the website to buy unless you want it to end at that level. Nobody else, not me, not some other industry pro, not some workshop, not some fancy ass person, not some this, not some that, can make that decision for you. This one is on you. You get to decide. You get to figure out what it is you want to do and then do that. I know for me, getting the book out or getting the thing out and available, because if I'm not selling on Amazon, whatever, but getting it out so that people can consume it is an end of that thing and ideally the start of the next. And I, knowing me, tend to springboard from one thing to the next off the successes. Okay, I did this first thing. I did it well. It's out there. Great, cool. I'm proud of it. Let's go start the next one while I'm thinking about it. And so on and so forth. Because that's me, and that's how I'm wired. You might be wired differently, and that's fine if you are, and it's fine if you're the same way, and it's fine if you're totally different. It's up to you. But if you're asking from a purely, like, I want to keep producing standpoint, you wrote it, it's available, so now you market it. So now you're going to talk to people about your work. And if you're going to clam up and go, oh, I can't market, I don't market very well. I have all the, Don't bring that sauce over here. We're gonna Dikembe Mutombo finger wag at it, because I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I can buy a lot of things. I can believe that you have trouble taking compliments. I can believe that you have difficulty believing in yourself. I can believe and understand in your difficulty, in your expectation of what sales is. I can believe all that. What I can't believe, what I refuse to believe, is that you have an inability to talk about a thing that you know better than anybody on this planet. Because you wrote it. Because it's your thing. So now all you got to do is talk about it. And whether that's a Twitter pitch, whether that's a Facebook pitch, whether that's a web page, whether that's a newsletter, whether that's an Instagram post, whether that's a TikTok, whether that's a whatever, you can learn the things you need to learn and say the things you want to say about it to influence the number of sales, to influence the number of potential sales, to influence the number of readers. You can do that. It's a learned set of skills. It's a little toolbox within our big toolbox of being creative. And you can get better at those tools. And you don't have to live in fear of those tools because they're just tools. I hate to tell you this, but when I talk to people about marketing and they come to me with like, I don't know how to pitch, I can't pitch, I don't pitch very well. And then after about 20 minutes of tossing around some ideas and explaining like, here's a pitch format, let's try filling in the blanks, you find that people get very animated about talking about their work, and all of a sudden they know exactly what sentences to say. Holy shit, if I say this about the character, it sounds really exciting. I say this about the plot, it sounds amazing. I put those two things together and, oh my God, I'd read that book. Like, that's all we're doing. We're just talking about a thing you love. And you're just trying to do it to somebody who doesn't know any better, so you're trying to get them to love it too. I know I'm simplifying that because I'm stripping away a lot of the anxiety, because it is that simple. It can be that simple. It doesn't need to be anything else. But to answer our question, It's up to you. What do you want to do? You don't even have to decide right this second. If you wrote your book and it's up on Amazon, you could take 30, 40, 50, 60, 90 years to decide what it is you want to do before you move forward. You can. There's no rule. For a lot of people, you just ran a marathon and completed it. Go enjoy yourself. Go have a good time. Go do stuff. Celebrate. And then maybe later come back and run the next marathon. It's entirely up to you. Don't let somebody else bully you. Don't let somebody else force you. Don't let somebody else like twist your arm and make you if you don't want to. You get to choose. You get to choose what it is you want to do. Okay? Do whatever you want. Do what makes you happy. Feed your soul. Yeah, that's a good question. And that's it. That's it. That's the whole shebang. Oh my God, there's a question. I wonder if you have any thoughts about whether or not authors should stay Amazon specific or if they should go for multiple platforms. Oh. Well, okay. There's a couple different ways to handle this. One, there is an advantage to staying Amazon specific, and that's you're counting on the fact that a lot of people know to go to Amazon for their books. So you're kind of counting on the fact that you're talking to like a corralled audience. And the tools within the Amazon sphere, can we call it that? The tools within Amazon allow you to sort of keep in that platform, keep in that ecosystem. That's a better word. Let's go with an ecosystem. Keep you within that ecosystem, and everybody knows what they get and knows how it works. And it's a very familiar, very straightforward experience. It is, however, a real pain in the ass, and they have tied your hands in terms of service and contract agreements and deals and things. But hey, you're within that ecosystem, so allegedly it offsets. It's a decision to make. However, the ability and opportunity to go to other platforms, either multiple platforms outside of Amazon or to go Amazon with a few other platforms as well, that's up to you. However, you've got to remember what your main goal here is. For some people, it's just, I want my book available in this space and this space. Let's say it's Kindle and iBooks. And everything else I don't give a shit about because I want my mom to be able to buy this book. Or I want to be able to print X number of copies on demand and whatever. If you have a specific goal to that degree, you're probably going to want to stick to a single platform, be it just Amazon or straight to POD or whatever. The advantage to having multiple platforms is more opportunity for multiple people to see it. However, just like multiple fish hooks in the water require multiple bait and more attendance, you've got 3 poles working, so you've got to constantly check them. More platforms, more marketing, more engagement, more stuff you have to do. And for a lot of people, that can turn into an exercise in frustration, sometimes very quickly, because it feels like you're forever checking the metrics and checking this and trying to do this and tweeting this and posting this and just kind of hurry up but not really getting anywhere. Some people like that. Some people enjoy that challenge. They enjoy that chase. Other people look at it and go, and couldn't be bothered. And that's fine. It depends. I think there's one other layer to our 7-bean dip discussion here. What genre are you working in? How large is your audience? How active is your audience? If you were buried in a genre with a tiny audience, maybe going to multiple platforms gives you a chance to expand. Or maybe with a tiny audience and a big bloated genre, being on Amazon allows you to directly, quickly move people to your sales channel to have them make that purchase. What do you want to do? It's up to you. There is no best one right way here. If your goal is, I want people to be able to purchase my book, As long as there is a way for them to exchange money for your product, the particulars don't matter so much. You could WooCommerce it off your own website if you really wanted to. You could skip all the algorithms, all the everything, and just put it on your own website if you really wanted to. There's nothing wrong with that. It takes a couple extra steps, a couple WordPress plugins, a little bit of typing. But you could do that. But there's a certain name and a certain level of cachet that you're treading on when it comes to saying, oh, my stuff's on Amazon, because it's Amazon. It's all of a sudden saying, remember before, like, when the internet was still developing, we would talk about, just go online and search for it. But now we shorthand that down to just Google it, because this giant evil corporation just became a verb. And Amazon is not so much a verb, but it's more of a constant. I got to get a thing, better Amazon it. Get it from Amazon. Do this with Amazon. Doesn't matter, all the other shit associated with it, but it depends on whether or not you want to stay in that ecosystem and stay in that platform, or whether you want to try something else. It's all accomplishing the same goal. You're all going to get your book out there in front of people, but sometimes it's okay to go with the name you know, and sometimes it's better to go without the name you know. I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think it's a writer-by-writer basis. I think some writers, with their audience, with their attitude, with their approach, would be very well served to go outside Amazon on purpose. I think some authors with a small audience and a certain view of marketing and a certain view or expectation of how things should go would be very happy on Amazon and should just stay there. They're not wired to or interested in rocking the boat or really trying something transgressive or anything like that. They just want, a pretty straightforward, nice, tame, safe, reliable sales. Stay with Amazon. There's nothing wrong with that. In the John Perfect World theory, everybody can go to every platform they want without hesitation, fail, or issue, and sell in whatever way they want, however they want, wherever they want. Not because I believe in the strength of the free market, because it's just bullshit, but I think people should have the ability to distribute and disseminate their art as they see fit. That's just me. It's a good question. I will definitely be sitting and thinking about it the rest of the evening, for sure. Any others? Anybody else out there with a thing? You're very welcome. You're all very welcome. I love answering questions. How about we get out of here, though? Anybody? Problems, issues? Otherwise, we'll hit the outro. You. Right there. Hey. You got a question? You. I see you thinking about it. Anything? We good? All right. I'm going to the outro. Man, thank you for all the spice. Thanks for getting my heart rate up. Thanks for bearing with the polka. What a delightful time this was. What a great chat this was. I really love doing these things. If you guys like this, if this was your cup of tea and something you enjoyed, the couple things you can do. One, if you're checking this out on Twitch, feel free to follow. It's free and super helpful. If you really want to commit to it and you really want to support this and you really want to, see this grow and get more out of it, feel free to subscribe. Button's right there. If you're checking this out on YouTube, hey YouTube, you look good. You do something nice with your hair, you look good. Over there on YouTube, the couple best things you can do, you can, click subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and give me a thumbs up on the button, because that really does make a difference. It moves me one step closer to being able to, make a living, and I enjoy living. So, good stuff there. And if you've got any questions over there on YouTube, feel free to leave them down below in the comments rather. And if you love all this stuff, you love every inch of it and you want more of it and you want to get even more deep and get really, really into things, patreon.com/JohnHelpsYouCreate is literally the hub for everything I do. And if you want help on your work, if you want help doing whatever it is you're doing, jump over to writernextdoor.com. At the top of the page, click book an appointment. There's a free option. And you should go check it out because it will really, really help you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for enjoying this tonight. I hope you dug this. All power to all people. The next time I'm here to help you with stuff, well, let's see, will be Monday, June the 20th, with the Writer's Chat on June 22nd. So until then, until Monday, take good care of yourself. Know that I love you. Love other people. You look really great today. I hope you smiled. I hope you cheered up. I hope you helped somebody out. I hope you did the right thing. And I'll talk to you very, very soon. Love you. See ya.